Well, Jenrick tried to be Nigel Farage. I mean, I can give him lessons if he wants and coach him, but you can't try out Farage.
If Tory MPs had rigged today's result to refuse to give long-suffering members the chance to vote for Robert Jenrick in favour of wet James Cleverly and controlled Gove stooge Kemi Badenoch, then I would have been done with the party forever. I mean, I am close to being done already, if I'm honest, because trusting this lot over a surging Nigel Farage promising real reform, well, to me, it's a pretty clear choice. But I believe we need a strong right. And now there is an ideological battle to be had between Badenoch, who won 42 MP votes, and Jenrick, who won 41, compared to Cleverly, who secured the support of 37 fellow Wets. The critical question of this Tory leadership race concerns the ECHR, and there is a very clear difference between the final two. Badenoch remain, Jenrick leave. And as Jenrick immediately declared on a victory lap, speaking to GB News in the last hour.
Is it right to characterise this election between the battle between you and Kemi Badenoch as a leave or remain battle to reprise the argument of the Brexit battle over the ECHR?
Well, certainly on immigration, we do differ. I believe that we should leave the ECHR. In fact, I think it's the only way in which we'll control our borders, we'll get foreign criminals out of this country, we'll get terror suspects out, and we'll actually restore sovereignty to Parliament. And also, we do disagree on whether we should have a capped system of migration. We've got to have that democratic lock so we can look the public in the eye this time and say immigration is actually going to come down. I have a very clear plan as to how we fix these problems with our borders and restore the trust and confidence of the British public.
I have no doubt, despite Sly News instantly declaring Badenoch the favourite, that Jenrick will win this. And it's a no-brainer for me. By the way, Sly News and its pathetic excuse for political analysis should always be ignored. More proof today. I mean, maybe I should feel sorry for them because they were in mourning, given that Guido Fawkes revealed they're about to be closed by Comcast. But then, as their man, their establishment man, James Cleverly, on the left of the Conservative Party, got booted after they just assured their dwindling number of hard-left viewers that he was a shoo-in to win the whole thing. Or they were very confused, put it that way.
Well, we said it was going to be unpredictable, but I don't think anyone was predicting that result after what we saw yesterday. James Cleverly, after storming into the lead, is now out. And members will be choosing between Kemi Badenoch, who had 42 votes from MPs, and Robert Jenrick on 41, just one single vote between them. But the big surprise there, James Cleverly knocked out, and two candidates who, I guess it's fair to say, most would say on the right of the party, going through to the membership round. Sam Coates, what on earth is going on?
Good question. Wow. James Cleverly yesterday had 39 votes. He had lost 2 votes overnight. He seemed, having had a storming conference speech, to have somehow managed to craft a message from the centre ground of the Conservative Party that was winning allies, but no more. It appears that Tory MPs have determined that this needs to be a contest between two figures on the right of the party. Yesterday, Kemi Badenoch was appealing for the votes of the right. She appears to have picked them up. But so too Robert Jenrick, who has been preparing really for this moment, I think, in all honesty, for months. And those two figures you can see on your screen will now go through to the 170,000 or so Tory members. But MPs have rejected the centre ground candidate.
Is this, I'm trying to work out what's going on here, I'll be honest. Is this a sign, we think, that James Cleverly supporters may be trying to fix the result?
No, it's not, Ms. Ridge. You just don't get it. You never get it. As former Sly News presenter Colin Brazier, I mean, he was there when the channel used to be Sound, posted on X, the media is fixated on who will lead the Tory party. Meanwhile, latest polling suggests reform will soon ensure there will be no Conservative Party left to lead. However, I still think Jenrick in the final two is not good news in some ways for Farage, who was hoping for a runoff between Badenoch and Cleverly. As Jenrick supporter David Campbell Bannerman argued, Conservative MPs who want to stay Conservative MPs should ask today why Farage is attacking Robert Jenrick in particular. Could it be that he sees Robert as the real threat to reform? With reform on 20%, it is vital to be able to encourage Conservatives back and not see a meltdown. And it is true, if you look at this very good interview from Farage, that he does seem to be most threatened by Jenrick.
What is fairly clear is that the Jenrick campaign is faltering really quite badly. And I think overall, I think Cleverly now must be favourite.
I mean, what does that say, though, Jenrick's faltering? Since a lot of people said he was close to you in the leadership race.
Well, Jenrick tried to be Nigel Farage. I mean, I can give him lessons if he wants and coach him, but you can't try out Farage unless you've got a track record in actually believing in these things. And for him to suddenly have this sort of conversion on ECHR and other things, not very believable, and I shouldn't say it really, but no charisma at all to back any of it up.
And so, I mean, if Cleverly wins and Keir Starmer's minister, and it's to reign of the moderates in Westminster, where does that leave reform?
Well, Cleverly versus Starmer would be just almost identical twins, really, on virtually everything. And the gap for reform is getting bigger and bigger. But I mean, the honest truth is reform's strength from here won't come from Conservative votes, because they're almost down to a baseline of where they're going to be. Our future is going to come from Labour.
I think there's good reason for Farage to worry more about Jenrick than Badenoch, who, let's remember, is a status quo candidate backed by all of those dark forces Nadine Dorries revealed in the plot. And she was all for mass immigration not that long ago.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As a first-generation immigrant, can I welcome the Home Secretary's statement, which I feel this immigration white paper is a move from the 20th century to a much better future immigration system. In particular, I'd like to thank the Home Secretary for removing the annual limits on work visas and also on international students, both of which I lobbied for on behalf of the Wellcome Sanger Institute and Anglia-Ruskin University, which serve my constituency. Could he elaborate on how removing the work visa cap in particular will give business certainty?
And of course, regardless of how the MSM might try and paint the UK as a thriving multicultural melting pot, polls prove that Tory members believe immigration must be cut, and not just a little bit. They want immigration cut a lot. So Jenrick is making all the right noises, writing on X in regards to the ECHR outrage that I spoke about on Outspoken just yesterday. A deported foreign criminal who snuck back into Britain is now allowed to stay because of his ECHR rights. Reform is a fantasy. We must leave. Let's settle our position now so we can unite, take the fight to Labour, and get on to the other big issues facing our country. And what was so striking to me about that is that less than 24 hours, Nigel Farage had posted this video, which had a very similar theme.
So we've got an Albanian criminal. He's deported from the UK. He comes back in illegally, gets a Lithuanian girl pregnant, and now we can't deport him because of Article 8 of the European Convention on Human Rights, which means his right to a family life, and he can stay. We've got another Albanian. This is a proper wrong on this bloke. He's been deported twice. He's now driving around London in a Ferrari, and we can't get rid of him until his asylum claim is heard. We are literally being walked all over by foreign criminals, and we're too useless and too gutless to do anything about it whatsoever. And until we leave the European Convention on Human Rights, get it out of British law, leave that ludicrous foreign court, we will have criminals from all over the world making a total mockery of this country. If that's not enough to make you angry, I don't know what is.
No, indeed. It's enough to make me utterly ropeable, actually. But just last week, remember Jenrick was declaring that he wanted to retire Nigel Farage. But I actually think once he has won this leadership election, and I believe he will, and I believe that he should, he is by far the best candidate, sane heads will soon realise a future arrangement between the Conservatives and Reform UK is the best way to save Britain by ensuring Slippery Starmer is a failed one-term Prime Minister. Now, it's time to bring in Father Calvin Robinson. Father Calvin, great to have you back in the UK on a big day for the right in British politics. But look, Calvin, you know I voted for reform at the last election. I don't try and hide that, but I always think I will back the best candidate. I don't necessarily buy into this argument that we want a weak Conservative Party. So what do you make of what happened today?
I agree with you. I think we need a strong Conservative Party. The Conservative Party, typically speaking, is the party of government. So why would we not want a strong Conservative leader there, even if we don't necessarily vote for that party ourselves? I cannot vote for the next leader because they booted me out and they banned me from the Conservative Party.
Yeah, well, see, that makes me not like them, Calvin.
Well, me too. But I am with you in that Robert Jenrick is probably the least worst option at this point. But I don't agree with Farage. I don't think that Jenrick is trying to out Farage. I think in recent weeks and months, Farage has been trying to out Conservative the Conservatives. His rhetoric has watered down. He's gone to the centre ground. Whatever political game he's playing, perhaps he's trying to broaden his vote base. Whatever he's doing makes him look more like the Conservative Party. And so actually, if Robert Jenrick gets in as the leader of the Conservative Party, there'll be very little difference between the Conservatives and Reform, which won't be bad for the Conservatives. That will be bad for Reform because the Conservatives will regain their natural ground, their natural vote base, and Reform have everything to lose. And I heard you speculating on perhaps there might be some relationship between a Jenrick Conservative Party and Farage's Reform. Maybe on the ground level, maybe the members. I don't think the parliamentarians will have any agreement. I can't see the current 5 MPs in Reform ever being allowed into the Conservative Party. They are very tribal in that way. They're very insular in that way.
No, and I don't think Reform wants that now. And by the way, I don't think that's actually what they should be gunning for or aiming for, because I think there's a good chance, Calvin, at the next election, Reform UK actually win a bigger share of the vote than the Conservative Party. However, what I see is some sort of potential deal that is strategic and that allows the Conservative Party to fight the Lib Dem in blue wall seats and allows Reform UK to go at Labour in the red wall. You know, there were 90-something seats, nearly 100 seats, that Reform UK actually came second to Labour at the last election.
Right, but the reason people voted for Reform was because the Conservatives weren't being conservative and because immigration is the greatest concern of most people in this country. Now, Farage, in his recent rhetoric, has shown that he doesn't actually care about the decline of white Britons. He said this on record. Steve Edgington interviewed him. And I was looking at a report from the year 2000 that suggested that by the year 2100, that white Britons would be in a minority in this country. But of course, back when that report came out, this was in The Guardian, this wasn't even like a right-wing newspaper. There we go. Thank you. We've got that on screen. When this report came out, immigration had only just crept from the tens of thousands into the hundreds of thousands. It was only just in 6 figures. Bear in mind now, in 2024, immigration into the UK is in the millions. It's over 1 million every year. And so that number has exceeded. And it looks like that white Britons will be in a minority by somewhere between 2030 and 2045, which is in our lifetimes. And so when we hear rhetoric from people like Farage saying, well, it doesn't actually bother me, I'm not concerned about that. Lots of white Britons are concerned about that. And if Reform isn't the answer to that, and we've got Robert Jenrick in the Conservative Party saying, I'm going to take us out of the ECHR, we're going to solve this immigration crisis, those voters will return to him because those votes are lent to Reform, just as they were lent to the Conservatives. They can go anywhere. People have realised now they can vote for whoever's going to implement the policies that they want. They don't belong to these tribes. These parties do not own their votes.
Well, no, indeed. But I actually, Calvin, just embrace that. I think that's a great thing, because if Robert Jenrick starts to outflank Farage on the right, and as you say, I think there's a big chance of that. I mean, Nigel was pushing back against the concept of mass deportations. I'm completely in favour of mass deportations. I mean, let's start with the 10,000 foreign nationals who are filling up our prisons. That would be a mass deportation. They should all be gone. It is a complete no-brainer. So if Jenrick starts to outflank Nigel on issues like that, actually, Nigel's going to have to realise, I need to just say what I believe. I need to be a bit more Trump-like, because at the moment, even though I did vote for Reform UK and you know that I, on the whole, support what Nigel is doing, I think he's trying to play the mainstream media game too much.
Well, you're more optimistic than I am. I think Farage is best at being that pincer movement. He's best at being on the right of the Conservatives to put pressure on the Conservatives. I don't think Farage is a good politician in the sense that I wouldn't want him as the Prime Minister or the leader of the country. I don't really want him in number 10 Downing Street, but I think he could put pressure on people who are more sensible than him to get the job done better than he could. He is a rebellious vote. He is kind of the pressure vote, and he's very good at applying pressure, but he's not too good at sticking to his guns, and he buckles all too soon. So it doesn't matter what Reform does as long as he puts pressure on the Conservatives to make them Conservative again, and then the country has a chance. I can't see Farage ever winning to become Prime Minister.
See, I can. I think it's all to play for, and I think what happens over the next couple of years is going to be absolutely fascinating. But I'm here for it. Let's have two strong voices on the right, not Kemi Badenoch, who we know is just a Michael Gove stooge. But of course, Calvin, there's been a race row. There's always a race row, isn't there? And this is in regards to messages swapped between, I think, Badenoch supporters in a WhatsApp group. Now, you actually posted on X saying if this is considered racist, they do not want to see our WhatsApp groups, and copied in Loza Fox on that. But this is what the messages actually said. And I don't think this is racist, but interest in your view. One of them said, I went to an area in London today, felt like I was on holiday. Can't say that, though, it's racism. And then another said, and this is in regards to Rishi Sunak, it said it's not racist to say he wasn't a true Brit. He was born here, yes, but didn't have the hereditary ancestral history of the majority of the British people. So is any of that racist, Calvin, in your view? But first, it's the best time of year. Football is back. We're talking Premier League in the UK and in the US, NFL Sundays and college football Saturdays. With that, the glorious kind of fantasy football lineups is back too. So it's where your inner manager comes alive, setting the perfect fantasy roster, screaming at your TV and making last-minute waiver moves that either make you a hero or the guy everyone ridicules in the group chat. But listen, while you're over here making sure your fantasy team is dialed in, don't let your personal grooming become the guy that gets left on the bench, because let's be honest, nobody wants to fumble their grooming routine. So that's where Manscaped's Performance Package 5.0 Ultra comes in, acting as your all-in-one grooming playbook. From keeping things sharp down below with the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra to taking care of those rogue ear and nose hairs with the Weed Whacker 2.0, this is the lineup that'll keep you looking and feeling like a champ on and off the field. It will help you feel clean, confident, and ready to dominate your fantasy league. The Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra Groin and Body Hair Trimmer is the franchise player of your grooming roster with precise trimming capabilities. It's reliable, efficient, and gets the job done without fumbling. Whether it's for a date night, weekend tailgate, or just everyday grooming, this is the tool you want on your squad. And no one wants a surprise nose or ear hair making a guest appearance on game day, right? So look at this. The Weed Whacker 2.0 handles those details like a pro, keeping you neat and ready to go. No missed tackles in your grooming game. And 2 free gifts today. The Boxers 2.0 Midnight Bravo and the Shed 2.0 Toiletry Bag Premium Gear to ensure you're always ready for action, whether at home or on the road. So join the over 10 million men. I'm one of them who trust Manscaped, and get ready for kickoff by heading over to manscaped.com. All you need to do is use the code Outspoken, that's at checkout, and you'll get 20% off and free shipping. Trust me, you'll be drafting the real MVP of grooming this season. So 20% off and free shipping when you use the code Outspoken at www.manscaped.com. Stay on top of your grooming game and be ready for anything the season throws your way.
If it is racist, then I'm a racist, because I agree with all of that. I've been in the UK now a couple of hours. I literally just landed in Heathrow. I've come straight to where I'm staying. I haven't heard an English person so far. The people in the airport directing me to passport control had very strong either African or Asian accents. I've just popped to Tesco to get some milk so I can have a cup of tea. Again, fully staffed by Indians. I haven't heard a single white British voice, a single English accent so far. And that is something to be concerned about. And people say, oh, that's racist, you can't be concerned about that. Of course you can. If you don't hear English-speaking English people in England, that should be a concern. And so, I mean, I've been in lots of WhatsApp groups with Kemi over the years. As you know, she's a friend of mine. I'm not in any WhatsApp groups anymore, including with Lawrence and Co, because WhatsApp groups are dangerous. But I don't think that group was a problem at all. I don't think the people in there are a problem. I don't think the messages are a problem. I think this is the mainstream media trying to hype up something out of nothing.
And even though you have been friends with Kemi in the past, you still think Robert Jenrick is the better candidate?
I haven't endorsed either candidate then. I see your concerns. And I do see that Gove is really, really invested in Kemi winning. But I also see that Robert Jenrick has spent a lot of years working at Politics Exchange, which is headed up by Lord Godson at the behest of Michael Gove. I know that because I worked there myself too. And so when I see the people, it seems to me that Michael Gove cannot lose either way. It's win-win. Perhaps Robert Jenrick is the least worst option in terms of the amount of influence that Michael Gove and Dougie Smith or Dr. No and Dominic Cummings have. But they're going to have influence either way. So the Conservative Party is not in the best shape right now.
The establishment looks after the establishment. Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please click on my face just to the bottom left to subscribe to this brand new independent news source and turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to our brand new live shows, uncancelled interviews and special royal episodes. Outspoken is also now available as a podcast, so you can listen to the show every weekday on the go, wherever you are. You can subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts, and I've put some of the links in the show notes below this video. Keep watching our Outspoken clips to support this independent news venture with no spin, no bias, and no censorship, unlike the MSM. Most importantly, I promise to keep fighting for you.